I've always seen that, okay, you have a video go viral and then you rush to get 3 more performance videos, but they're not truly inspired. And they don't go viral, and you're like, oh man, now I'm discouraged. So let me just make something I think is sick, and then that one connects. And it's like resisting that urge to just be pumping out content, to me, is important because it's like quality over quantity.
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast, brought to you by IndiePRO.io.
What's up, Indies? Welcome back to the Creative Juice podcast. This is episode 246, the one where we're going to be talking about chasing virality and TikTok content and how to make the most out of what you got. I'm your host, Jack McCarthy. With me is my co-host, Ed Isola. Ed, what's going on, dude? I know this is a topic that is near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, I mean, I find it really interesting. And I think that there's a lot of conversation around TikTok and all that kind of stuff. And it's probably the most talked about topic right now in music, I would guess. Whether that's good or bad, I'm not sure.
Anything that is too talked about, it's probably bad, you know?
Yeah, probably so. It's overdone. But I love talking about TikTok. I think it's really fascinating. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff I think we're going to dive into today that's just a fun, open conversation around best practices and virality and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I want to kick us off by saying, like, the inspiration for this episode really came from the fact that I think a lot of artists now, with short form content, short form video specifically on TikTok and Instagram Reels, and kind of going over to every platform, I think artists more and more are finding themselves in a position where they feel like they have to be content creation machines and constantly pumping out new stuff. And I don't want to put the misconception out there that you don't need to create content. You do. You do. That's just like a cold, hard fact, and we're not going to get away from that. But I think what I want to address here, kind of out in the open, is I think a lot of artists struggle with trying to chase the next thing that's going to go viral for them almost constantly. Like one thing pops off and they're like, okay, how am I going to beat that? Or how am I going to follow that up? What am I going to do next? How am I going to top it? And that can really put you on a content creation hamster wheel that I don't think serves you very well. It's like churn and burn content that doesn't really take advantage of the things that have been working for you. It's like, okay, I just need to keep going. I just need to keep creating and putting out more and putting out more and putting out more, as opposed to, I think, a tactic that we're going to talk about here, more related to when something goes well, you should take that and repurpose it and reuse it across platforms, across different types of posts, by recreating and mashing it up and adding front caps and end caps, all these different things that you can do to really stretch out the lifespan of a video that goes well for you.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? Because first off, next time we have something go viral, will you please remind me to not start chasing the next best thing? Because I personally always fall into that hole. And it's not something that... It's something that's sitting here now talking about it. It's like, oh, duh, why would you do that? But when it happens, when something goes viral, you get caught up in this like, oh man, that's viral. And like everything just starts skyrocketing. Like your streaming numbers, your social media, like your streaming revenue, your ticket sales, everything just goes like through the roof. And it's super fun. And then the part I think a lot of people don't talk about is right after that, you're like, ah, damn. All right, well, you know, inevitably a month or 2 months or 3 months later, it starts coming down and it settles higher than where it was by a nice amount, but it will eventually settle down. Like nothing ever peaks up and stays all the way at the very top, right? Like that's just a truth. And so as it comes down, that's where you start to say like, well, what worked? Let me try to recreate it. I think what Jack's getting at, and what is really smart, is saying like, let's repurpose that content. And in my mind, there's a couple of ways to repurpose it. And before I dive into that, like, I think that the best thing when it comes to consistent content, I don't buy into that narrative. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would like shudder at that statement, even in my own life. And it's like the idea of consistent content, I think, is great when you have something to talk about and something engaging to talk about. But I think the idea of consistent content just for the sake of consistent content, to me, it just doesn't work. Like I've always seen that, okay, you have a video go viral and then you rush to get 3 more performance videos, but they're not truly inspired. So, and they don't go viral, and you're like, oh man, now I'm discouraged. So let me just make something I think is sick, and then that one connects. And it's like resisting that urge to just be pumping out content, to me, is important because it's like quality over quantity. But back to the point of this, which is repurposing content. I think there's 2 things you can do here. The first thing is, if you have a video that goes viral, I think that Jack said, hey, number 1 is that you repurpose it, right? Like you repurpose that exact video. Let me look up the site real quick. There's a site where you can download your TikTok with no watermark. Oh, it's called SnapTik.app. SnapTik, like TikTok, TIK.app. It's free. It's online. All you do is grab the URL from your TikTok, post it in there. You can download it with no watermark. That was a huge asset, because when it comes to how do I repurpose this, number 1 is repost the video. Wait a month and repost the video. All you caption it is like throwback or one of my favorite videos or always makes me happy. I don't know, something like that.
I was just going to say, I feel like immediately upon saying repost the video, it's going to bristle people, right? Like everyone gets nervous about the idea of like, what if I'm saturating my fans too much? Or like, oh, too many people have seen that. Like, I don't want them to see it again. I want to poke at this a little bit and just smash this objection, because it really needs to be crushed. There are so many ways to repurpose a piece of video content. Ed, you were just touching on them, like change the caption on the video, change the copy. I think that's the biggest way to do it. I mean, hell, you could even like change the color. Like you could make it black and white if you really wanted to get weird with it, or you could add a front cap or the end cap. But I think changing the copy is the first and most creative way to get started with something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that where artists come from a lot of times is, I don't want to be cringy and I don't want to spam people. That's like, I would say, and I'm sure you would agree, that's like the biggest objection a lot of times to reposting stuff or even making sales offers. It's like, I don't want to spam, I don't want to be cringy. I think that that's a valid sentiment. I think that artists need to change their framing of that. And sure, it probably is pretty cringy if you have a video go viral and 2 weeks later you post the exact same video with the exact same caption, and 2 weeks later you post the same video with the same caption. That's cringy. I wouldn't do that, right? But the reposting of the video itself is not the problem. Like, think about where your fans are at. That's how I try to do it. And hey, say I want to reshare this video a month later. How do I do that? Because if I posted a video today, it went viral, and I wait a month or 6 weeks to repost it, yeah, a lot of people have seen it. A lot of people have liked that video if it went viral. So where are they at right now if they see the same video in 6 weeks? They're probably at a place of like, oh yeah, I remember that video. That was cool. And that's why this whole angle of one of my favorite throwbacks, like that kind of throwback angle, it's super cohesive because you as an artist are just reposting something that you legitimately liked and posted on Thursday, Throwback Thursday, right? Like that kind of thing, where it's all of a sudden it's like, well, it's not cringy because I've done that a handful of times for videos that went viral for us, that I just legitimately one day was like watching this video and I was like, man, this is a great video. I love this clip so much. I'm going to post it. And the way that those captions frame it, it's not like I'm trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes. It's like, yeah, I know you've seen this. Yeah, me too. I just really liked it and felt like reposting it. You'll see comments like, dang, this is how I found you. I love this video so much. I always stop to watch this in my feed. That kind of thing, because it's authentic. And so that's where like, that's how you remove the cringiness, I think, because it's a valid objection to not want to be cringy to your fans, but it's not a valid objection to not want to repost something that connected, because it also has the opportunity to reach new people. And so I think when you talk about
exactly,
yeah, and I think when you talk about, reaching new people, when I repost stuff, we still have comments like, "What song is this? Can't believe I've never heard this." And it's like, okay, it went very viral, and people still have no idea what it is. So like a lot of people won't see the video.
You know what's crazy about this? Like the idea of like worried about oversaturating or being spammy or
cringy or whatever.
Yeah, being cringy or spammy. The interesting thing is like everyone in the world talks about how platforms like TikTok and Instagram are growing and constantly have more people on them. And it's like, you have to be on these platforms because they're huge. Like that's the go-to line that people say. But then when it comes to effectively using them, when your content actually does well, it's like, oh no, it's too small and I can't use it. Like I can't do it again because the platform's too small. Like those are just ridiculous ideas. Like they're completely polar opposites. So like that's another way to break through it. Think about it like you're in a massive pond. Like your content will get shown to new people.
Yeah, that's a great way to talk about it because it's like it is growing, and like no matter how viral your video goes, there's always new people to be reached on the app. You know, like unless it gets like hundreds of millions of views, you're probably going to have a decent amount of people that did not get reached by it originally. And so that is like, there's always new people. You should repost it. And so I think when we talk about reposting content, that's number one, which is like literally just take the video and repost it with a different caption. Number two is something Jack was talking about at the start of this episode, which is cool, which is download the video that went viral and put a new front cap on it or an end cap. Like just do something where, you know, if it's a front cap, it probably starts with you being like, man, this connected. Here's our streaming numbers in the backdrop, right? Like the green screen, and then cuts to the video. Or it plays the first 3 seconds of the video and cuts to you at a sold out show, or just like with your mind blown, like that kind of thing. You can do front and end caps where it's really fun and you can make it playful, and it frames it as like this is my life update. Like, remember this video? Well, this is what it's done the last year for me. And that's really cool.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I know you guys have done that a couple times.
Yeah, I mean, it's like super natural too, because like legitimately for me, it's like, man, if I look at the last year, it's like, wow, this one video has us playing a 1,500 person venue in Dublin. That's nuts. And I want to share the fact that I think that's nuts with people, because who the hell would have thought, right? And like, that's crazy. And people want to know like what you think about that kind of stuff, because I think a lot of people see viral things and they're like, man, I wonder what that's like. I wonder what it's like to be in a viral moment. And it's crazy. And so like sharing that narrative is totally authentic, where unless you're Beyonce or some huge artist who has had a viral video 27 times, you know, sharing that narrative of like, man, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. Like, what? Look at the way my streams just upticked. Like all that stuff. Noah Khan, I don't know if you are familiar with him or not, Jack, but he did his song Stick Season and just went super viral on TikTok the last couple months. You know, I think it has like 50 million streams right now on Spotify. And he's doing that, right? And I've watched his TikTok because I'm a fan of his, and it's really cool to see, hey, he had this song go viral, but he's really done a great job of building his relationship with his fans after that by posting things like, hey, here's the first time anybody at a show sang along to it after it went viral. Here is me at Red Rocks. Here's my streams that all of a sudden are like 10 times as many, right? Like, here's a fan cover.
I saw his Red Rocks TikTok, yeah.
Yeah, it's just cool stuff. And like, I'm sure he has a team working on it and all that stuff, but like, it's literally it feels like it's just him being like, this is now my current life. This is nuts. Here you go. If you want to see what the heck's going on, take a look. And that's the kind of authentic stuff that then continues to get views and build that culture. And that's a different way of reposting and keeping the narrative alive along that journey without just reposting the same video time and time again. It's the same sound. It's similar clips of similar videos, but it's keeping it alive in different ways.
I think these are like a few really good tactics. The last one that I want to talk about, which is steps outside of organic, is if you have something that works or has worked and went viral and you're like, okay, you know, facing the temptation to want to figure out what the next thing to rush to is to continue getting more fans, is you should just run ads. Right? Like, this is something that we've seen time and time again. And everything that we've talked about so far on this episode applies not to just TikTok or Instagram Reels. This is applied to Facebook for years. This is applied to Instagram, you know, feed before Reels was ever a thing. Like, all of these tactics really have been kind of like battle tested across different platforms. Honestly, like, we've seen the same thing work. But ads is another strategy that we haven't talked about here, is like if you see something that works well and you want it to reach new people, then you should run ads on it. You should run ads on that piece of content, and you should target new audiences to get that in front of them. And that extends that virality for you and can do it by multiples for a very, very long time. And that also escapes, your fears of being cringe or oversaturating somebody by posting the same thing. It's funny because it's not really any different than your impressions. The number of times that people are going to see it will eventually go up, and that's okay. That should be actually something that you're comfortable with, not uncomfortable with. But I'm not gonna go into that argument right here and now. But you should run ads. You can run TikTok ads. You can run Instagram ads. You can run Facebook ads. If you want to learn how to do that, you can check out the Fan Finder method, where we talk about doing that on all of these different platforms. We'll link to that inside of IndiePRO in the show notes. But I wanted to mention that because it's not only does this apply to organic, your paid ad strategy also comes into play here too.
I'm just internally laughing at the whole anti-ad thing right now. But just I wish that we've talked about this, and I guess we could maybe link to this episode when what you and I did when Just a Little While started going viral and the way we put paid spend behind it. Two thoughts, actually more than two thoughts probably. But the first thought is I would be surprised if anybody listening really thinks that most viral videos catch on totally organically, right? A lot of them probably do. But if you look at these big artists, again, I have no idea what his budget is or whatever, but I would guess Noah Khan has a pretty sizable budget in terms of people videotaping his content, people brainstorming his content. I'm sure he has an agency that's working on it, all that stuff. And that's great. He's on a huge label. He can afford that. But there is spend behind it. And where that group would be smart is hey, this video got a million views on it. Let me dump a few $1,000s on it on TikTok to run ads for 2 weeks on it. At this point, he's pumping out viral videos consistently. That would be furthered if they just put ad spend behind those things and said oh, it's connecting. Let's run it for 2 weeks. Let's refresh it. And all this stuff, it's paid ad spend. I think people feel it's cheap. But I was listening to some podcasts the other day, and they were hey, the benefit of joining up with, I was listening to Bill Burr's podcast, and he had, I think, Dave Portnoy on. And he was the benefit of joining up with a Barstool Sports, or which is the equivalent of a record label, right? Is that you bring this concept that's good, and they put millions of dollars behind it in advertising. They get eyes on your product. Money is the name of the game to that level. And so people that are against ad spend, to me, it's that is, if you're getting a good cost, that's controlled virality. You're just paying to get eyes on your thing. And if it's affordable, that's what all these big artists and companies do. And so for smaller artists to say, I don't want to, if you don't have the budget, that's one thing. But for you to say, I don't want to spend because it's not authentic or it's not organic, it's well, you're just hurting it's bullshit. Yeah. But even deeper than bullshit, it's you're just hurting your own business. Essentially, you're just saying here's a sick clip. Nobody else is going to see it unless it goes viral. And that to me is just, it's a different way of thinking. And maybe I was brainwashed early on, not having any reference of marketing, but it's if I could just pay money to get fans eyes on my content that I think they'll love, why would I not want to do that? And you can do that before, you can do that after the video goes viral. That's what we did for Just a Little While. It's it started going viral, and we just started seeing the uptick in streaming without even realizing it was viral. And Jack and I were just kind of I feel every week or every few days being this is working. Let's put, $200 a day on Instagram ads or TikTok ads. And we just started trying this and seeing how it ticked things up. And I believe that was a nice contributing factor in helping it go as viral as it did, because we had the organic side, but we had the paid side. And so to Jack's point, getting off the soapbox here, it's keep ads in your toolbox of things to try, because it is controlled virality in a lot of different regards, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and we talked about this a little bit a few months back, where we talked about a two-step process to building a fan base and how organic and paid social are both so important. And I think this kind of just underlines that again. But it also, apart from building a fan base, the goal and kind of message behind this whole talk that we just had was really how can you relieve that anxiety of needing to constantly come up with the next thing that's going to go viral? And hopefully this gives you guys some tactics and some strategies to work with to really like capitalize as much as you can on what you've created and what has worked, so that you're not constantly like, you know, scratching away trying to find the next thing like some kind of virality addict. You can actually, you know, strategically do things with the groundwork that you've already built. And I think that that's a really important message for indies to hear right now, especially as like, you know, messaging comes out about like, don't run ads. All you need is XYZ thing. It's ridiculous. It's silly. And you don't need to listen to that. You do not need to listen to it.
For sure. The last thing I wanted to add around, you know, we've talked about ads, we've talked about repurposing videos. Something I've seen going viral and something that I feel like is a smart idea is that if you have a video go viral, create something else similar to it, something that's tangential to the viral video. And specifically where I've seen that working on a couple different accounts. Noah Khan is one. What's this guy's name? I think his name's like, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Anees. Ains. I don't know how to pronounce that guy's name, but he has like a mustache. You would probably recognize him if you're on TikTok. He's been doing this. It's live clips have been connecting for him and for Noah Khan and for 502s and like posting different takes of live clips. We just had another video get almost 1 million views a couple weeks ago. It was just a live clip. And like TikTok has been strange lately where the view counts have been down. They've been kind of suppressed. I think they're going through just like some algorithm changes. And that's kind of seemed to be the case across a bunch of accounts that I've been looking at. But it was like we were posting, it was like 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, 1 million, right? And like that was the kind of thing where in my mind I was like, well, historically we've had live shows go viral. Let's just not post the same video. Let's post a different clip from a fan. And it connected. And so like, just thinking about the fact that, hey, you can repost, you can do front caps, end caps, but like also creating similar content or similar clips is another good idea.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, you know, kind of shows all the different ways that you can stretch out one piece of content or one video or one sound, as you said, into multiple different things, from as little as reposting it with, you know, new caption, new copy, to front caps and end caps, to, you know, new variations on that content, to running ads. Like these are all the things that you can do. So hopefully this gives you guys some fuel to work with, relieve some of the anxiety around, you know, trying to pop off with every post that you make, and hopefully gives you as much ammunition as you can possibly have to tap out your content on TikTok, on Instagram, and wherever else really that you like to post and engage with your fans. So I hope you guys dug this. Definitely a more tactical episode, and go take it and run with it. Go use it. Go identify what's worked well for you in the past and figure out how you can make it have a longer shelf life, how you can stretch it out and really maximize it.
That's it. Go test some things. Cheers, guys.
Hell yeah. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace out, Indies.